Hey guys, YouTube 100 here. Okay, and for this video, this is gonna kind of be something that I told you guys in my last video how for my next video I was gonna tell you guys what my plans are this year in honor of Halloween, and so this is gonna be that video, and so for this is just gonna be something to kind of just kind of like do something that's kind of like a kickoff of what I'm gonna be doing this year for in honor of Halloween. But I'm not gonna actually be announcing what my actual plans are until the end of the video. All right. But for this video, I'm gonna be talking about something regarding the Goosebumps show. So yeah, so yeah. So you may remember several years ago, I did talk about Goosebumps. I did talk about just some various Goosebumps subjects in honor of the release of the 2015 movie. So yeah, so several years ago I did talk about Goosebumps, but yeah, there's something else I want to do to talk about Goosebumps as well. Yeah, so yeah, because as of late I've been kind of going on kind of a binge on the Goosebumps show. I've been watching a lot of the Goosebumps show on Netflix for the last few months. Yeah, and just as I've been watching these episodes, I've been kind of noticing that just throughout just various episodes, there's been some situations that have kind of happened, or just some stuff that's happened in these shows that just this kind of like had me kind of questioning what is the meaning of some of these situations, or why don't they just do something in these situations, or how some stuff can even happen, or just why there's a certain thing happening, or just stuff like that. Just it's there's just been several situations throughout Goosebumps in the show that I've just been kind of questioning what it how is this happening, and why is it happening, and just some stuff that is never really fully touched upon. There's no really explanation given as to why these things are happening, or there are questions asked that really don't receive any sort of answer. So yeah, so I've just been kind of noticing a lot of these situations happening that really just really do make you question why, what it actually means and stuff. So yeah, so I've kind of looked at these kind of as just questionable plot points, because yeah, it just really doesn't kind of just make you question why this stuff is happening. So I figured I would make this video to just kind of just count down my picks for what I think the top 10 questionable plot points are in the Goosebumps series. Because yeah, I just seeing there's just a lot of stuff that I have really questioning as I've really been just rewatching the series. I was I've said before, I did watch Goosebumps a lot when I was a kid, and yeah, and there was some stuff that I was kind of asking how it can happen and stuff. But yeah, as I've been rewatching it as of late, there's just more stuff that I've been asking as I've been going back to kind of taking a look at episodes I really didn't watch when I was younger. So yeah, so I just figured I would just kind of just make a list of what I think the top 10 questionable plot points are throughout the Goosebumps episodes. Because so yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So I know that some of the stuff that I am going to be having on this list, some of this stuff was actually touched up upon in the books that they're based off of. But yeah, as far as the episodes go, there really isn't really any explanation given, or it isn't really it just leaves questions unanswered. So yeah, so this is just going to be my pitch for the top 10 questionable plot points throughout the Goosebumps episodes. All right, so yeah, so let me not waste any time, and let me just get started with this. All right, so number 10 is, are Sue and Eddie sent to the future when we first see them in A Night in Terror Tower? So yeah, so yeah, so this is probably the most minor plot point that I do have on this list, which is why it's at number 10. So I know this one really probably isn't really that big, but it is something that I have just kind of a question. I've been questioning this for years because, yeah, if you've seen the episode A Night in Terror Tower, you know that it is about how there are these two siblings, Sue and Eddie, and yeah, and just Yeah, and it turns out like how they're like actually they've actually been like sent to the future from medieval times, and stuff, and so yeah, and it is like revealed that were actually like sent to the future by a wizard. But yeah, something that I have like been kind of questioning is because is like when we do first like see Sue and Eddie like in modern times, is that like actually like when they're first transported into ported to the future? Because as the episode like starts up, it does like kind of like show a scene of like like when Terror Tower was actually used as a like as a prison and stuff. And then yeah, then it just like shows that it's like it just like cuts away to makes it reveals that it's just like a video about like how a Terror Tower is an attraction in modern London. Yeah, and we do see just like Sue and Eddie like just acting as like just normal '90s kids. Yeah, but yeah, it is just something like kind of question like when they are like when we do first see them, is that actually like the first when they are actually like first uh, sent into the future by the wizard? Because yeah, yeah, I know that like probably like a lot of people really don't question this, but it's just something that I have just really been wondering because yeah, it even like shows like in the episode at one point it does like show how like Sue and Eddie really don't remember like any previous days prior to that one. So yeah, so I guess it is like kind of like hinting that that might have happened. They might have been like just sent right to the future on that day. Like that is their first day actually being like put into the sent as part of the future. So I really don't know if they were, but it is just something I have that's like really been questioning. Like was it like when we do first see them in the episode? Is that actually when they're sent to the future? So yeah, so like I said, probably the most minor point on this list. So yeah, probably not a lot of people really are gonna really ask themselves this when they do watch this episode. But yeah, it is just something that I have just like been kind of like just wondering for like several years. So yeah, but okay, that is probably like I said, that's just like the probably the most minor point on the list. But yeah, yeah, for the rest of this list, this is going to be like bigger plot points and probably stuff that is like more questionable in these episodes. All right, so yeah, but okay, let me continue on with this list. All right, number 9 is why didn't the kids just report Emil to the cops to cancel the play? So this was from the Phantom of the Auditorium episode of the show. Now, before I actually do talk about out this point, I just want to like just ask, what is it with like a kid networks like wanting to just satirize Phantom of the Opera? Because just yeah, in like on a bunch of like kids networks, I've kind of like just like seen how they're just like always wanting to like satire Phantom of the Opera because there's of course this and of course, like there's also that a Disney Channel movie, Phantom of the Megaplex. So yeah, so just like what is it with like kids networks wanting to just satirize Phantom of the Opera? Who knows? Okay, but anyway, yeah. Now getting to this point, so I'm not sure how many of you actually do know this episode. This probably isn't like one of the most popular episodes of the show, but you know what this episode is about is it's about like a group of like kids like putting on a school play. Okay, and it shows like during their rehearsals, like it shows like there's like some strange like incidents and going on while they're rehearsing, and it shows how like one of the girls who's playing like a main part in the play seems to like being it seems to be that she's being stalked by another kid that is playing actually like one of the phantom in the play that they're performing. Yeah, and then yeah, then as all this stuff is going on, like the two kids end up at one point as they kind of like sneak down like a trap door on stage or something. They end up like a meeting a guy who says his name's Emil and he claims to be the night janitor. Yeah, and then yeah, then later on, like after like one incident where like that kid ends up getting blamed for an incident that he is saying that he didn't do, like he ends up like getting pulled from the play, and like the teacher who's like directing the play says that if there's any other situation that goes on, she's going to be canceling the play. And then yeah, and throughout this episode, I should also mention that there's a girl that really does a claim that the play that they're putting on is cursed, and she's like saying that they should not be performing the play. Yeah, and then after like all this stuff happens, then like the kids are starting to think that maybe they shouldn't be putting on the play. And then after they was were talking to the janitor about like the incident that happened, like saying that there was a mess that needed to be cleaned up. Like they were asking about like a meal, you know, cleaning it up since he's the night janitor, and then the janitor told them that there is no night janitor. Yeah, and then yeah, then like the kids are still, like saying that they should like call the cops to report a meal, but then they're saying that they shouldn't because like the play will end up being canceled. Like what? Like you were just saying that maybe you shouldn't be putting on this play, so this is your chance to make sure that it doesn't happen, and yet you're saying that you don't want to report it to get the play canceled. So yeah, just what is the logic in this? I mean, isn't that kind of like a little contradictory to what you were just saying? Like, you're starting to get the belief that you shouldn't be putting on this play, yet when you got a chance to report or the person that you have now heard is not who they claim to be, that you don't want to do it because the play could get canceled. Like, I mean, is which one is it? So yeah, so this is one that I really don't quite understand. I mean, if the kids really are thinking that they shouldn't put on the play, like this was their opportunity to finally like get have the chance to possibly get it canceled. So yeah, so I really don't understand the logic in this whatsoever. So yeah, so it just does seem like really contradictory, and yeah, probably just something that the writers really didn't think about when they were actually writing this episode. So yeah, so I'm not exactly sure how this situation was handled in the book, but yeah, as far as like how this episode goes, yeah, just the way they write it, it just really doesn't make sense. So yeah, all right, so yeah, so that's my number 9 plot point. All right, number 8 is, what was the Dr. Brewer plant actually trying to do? So this is from the Stay Out of the Basement episode. So yeah, so if you've seen this episode, you kind of like know what the plot is of this is like it shows how like there is like two like the dad in this episode, like it shows that he's like very wrapped up in his work, and yeah, and then like it shows like just how obsessed he really is because he is a botanist working with plants. And then at one point like in this episode, like he tells his two kids how he's working on something that is really unusual, and he says how he's trying to build a plant that's part animal. So yeah, but yeah, it yeah, it's never really explain exactly what he does mean by that. Even like when the daughter does actually if ask him like what he means by that, if he's like putting animal cells in a plant, he really doesn't go into any more detail about it. So yeah, so what exactly was it that he was trying to do? What does he mean by like building a plant that's part animal? Yeah, even like at the end of the episode when like the real father like of course like this is like if you know what I'm talking about, like shows how the dad in this episode is actually like a plant copy. Like even at the end when the real dad like does like give like his beliefs as to what he feels that the plant was really trying to do. He feels that the plant wanted to make plant copies of the whole family. Like, yeah, how was he really going to do that? Because the dad does explain like how the his plant clone was created at the end of the episode, but yeah, the plant really didn't have like what really did make him in order to make the plant copies of the whole family. So yeah, I don't know. Like, was that his intent, or no? What did he mean by building a plant that's part animal? So yeah, so it's something that I really have really been questioning ever since watched this episode since I was a little kid. Like, what did he mean by building a plant that's part animal? So yeah, so it's something that I really don't quite understand. And so yeah, I mean, do any of you really understand this better than I do? I mean, do you have any more of an understanding of what that could possibly mean? So, yeah, so, but as far as I go, I mean, I just really didn't quite understand exactly what he meant by that. But, yeah. And so something that is, like, really more questionable as to, like, since there's, like, very little detail given as to what he's really up to. All right. Okay, so, but let's move on. All right. So at number 7 is is Courtney some kind of ghost or spirit? So this is from the episode You Can't Scare Me. So yeah, so if you know this episode, you know that like what this is really about is it's about a girl that really is like claiming to really not be afraid of anything. And throughout this episode, it really does show that she really has no fear of anything, whether it is like a snake or a tarantula or whatever the case may be. And just the way she acts, it really just kind of just make me like think that, I mean, is she even like an actual like regular human girl, or is she just like some kind of like angel or something? Because just like the way she talks and how she just claims to really just not be afraid of anything, and it even does show how she's not. And how she's like talking to like monsters and stuff, and how she just seems to really be like very perfect. Like, is she just like it does really make me think that like maybe she's not actually a human girl. I guess she's just like some sort of angel or a spirit or something like that. Because yeah, just the way that she does act in this episode, it really does kind of make it seem that way. Like so, yeah, and just how she just seems to be like so selfless and everything, like offering a teacher her lunch and just like stay offering to help other students and everything. Like it just really seems that she really is just like this angel that's just like watching over everybody. So yeah, so but yeah, this episode never actually does confirm that. But I mean, was there anything in the book actually saying that? So yeah, so I'm really not sure exactly what it is, but I just really do have the belief that she might actually be like just an angel, not just a regular human girl. So yeah, so it is just something that really just does seem kind of bizarre. So yeah, okay, so yeah, so that's number 7. All right. Number 6 is how did the comic book come to life? So this is from the Attack of the Mutant episode. So yeah, so this is one that I've really been kind of questioning because I just recently watched Attack of the Mutant for the first time, and yeah, and yeah, I'm not sure how many of you actually do know about this story, but what it's really about is it's about this kid that really does have a fascination with comic books. He collects them, and he is like very fond of this villain in a comic book series that he's reading named the Masked Mutant. And in this episode, it shows that this comic book ends up like coming to life, and like the Masked Mutant and pretty much like everything in the comic is actually like coming to life, and it is actually entering the real world. And yeah, my question to this is like, how exactly did it come to life? Because in the opening scene of this episode, like at the very end of this opening scene, it just shows like how just there's the open comic book, and then just it shows how like they're like starting everything in the comic book, like with the Mass Mutant himself. It's just like starting to like just come out of the book. But yeah, why exactly? How did it come to life? Like, no explanation is even given. Like, the kid didn't even actually like say a spell or anything to actually bring the comic book to life or anything. It's like it just ends up just like out of nowhere, just coming to life. There's no explanation given whatsoever as to why like this stuff is actually like coming alive. Like, why is like the Mass Mutant like actually coming to life? Why is like his headquarters entering the real world? Why is like yeah, just why is all this stuff happening? Like why is like everything in that comic book coming to life? No explanation is given whatsoever as to why this is happening. I mean, it does like show like later on when the kid actually does like start seeing himself in the comics. The That's Mutant does like later give an explanation as to why he's actually becoming in the comics. But as far as like the comic books actually coming to life, like why is that happening? No explanation is given whatsoever as to why the comic book just suddenly starts coming alive. So yeah, so that is something that I really have do question a lot as to how this comic did actually come alive, because the kid said no sort of spell to bring it to life or what or anything like that. It's just the comic book just like started coming alive out of nowhere, and that's it. So yeah, so it is something I really don't quite understand. I mean, did, in was there like an explanation like given in the book as to how the comic book came to life? Like, did the kid actually like say a spell or something to bring it to life in the book? I don't know how it was in the book, but as far as the episode goes, yeah, it just really doesn't make sense, and no explanation is given. So yeah, so that is probably like one of the bigger things to question in the show. All right, number five is an old story. Yeah, just everything, just the entire episode, an old story. Yeah, just this is like probably like one of the weirdest episodes of the entire show. Just everything about this episode just raises questions. So this whole episode is just so freaking weird, and it just has like question after question after question. I mean, yeah, like for those of you who really don't know this episode, I mean, if you've watched Goosebumps before, you probably do know this episode. Yeah, just yeah, it just gets so freaking weird, and it just gets weirder and weirder as it goes on. Like it's about these two brothers who are being like babysat by their aunt while their parents are off on vacation, and she ends up like feeding them like a cookies filled like made with prunes, and the prunes have like powers to like make the kids older, and yeah, the kids end up like turning into old men. And yeah, and then yeah, then it has like the aunt's like two elderly friends coming over, and it shows how like she is trying to like sell the boys off to her two friends so they can marry them. Like, huh? Yeah, yeah, and it just shows like the kids like are like, because they're like getting old, they're like starting to feel old as well. Yeah, and then and then it's like in the end, like it shows like how they're able to like cure themselves is like they eat baby food, and the baby food somehow um it like reverses it, and it makes them their proper age again. And yeah, it just gets like so freaking weird throughout this whole episode, just like, and I've just got so many questions about this episode. Like, firstly, like, how does the ant have these prunes that have the power to make people older? Like how does she have these, and why do the prunes make people age more? Like yeah, there's no explanation given whatsoever as to like why the ant has these prunes and why they're able to like make people older. Like I know like in the book that this is based off, like rather than in their aunt, like this is just a witch that's doing this. So it does make sense as to how like in the book how these prunes are able to do that. But in this episode, like there's nothing like said whatsoever about the ant being a witch. It's so yeah. So how does she have these prunes that have like these magic powers to like get make people older? Yeah, yeah. And why does she want to sell off her nephews to her two friends? Like what? Like like that is just freaking weird. And like is that kind? I mean, like doesn't that kind of sound a little bit like a doesn't that sound a little bit like pedophilia for like these old ladies to actually like want to marry like two boys? Like what? Yeah. And then at the end, like when the kids are actually able to like reverse the magic and actually by eating baby food, and it makes them younger again. Like what? How does baby food like reverse it? No explanation is given whatsoever as to like what's in baby food that does like reverse the whole thing with the prunes. Yeah. Yeah, and also like even like when they actually do defeat the ant in the episode, like it shows like there's like this prune juice that like they end up throwing on her, and it just makes her like age to the point where she just like becomes like a she just rots into a skeleton and eventually just crumbles into ashes. Like how does that work? Because like the kids actually did like eat the prunes and it made them older, but yet like this prune juice was just poured on the ant and it caused that to happen. Like she didn't actually ingest it. So like, did the boys even actually have to eat the prunes to make them old? Like, yeah, there's just like so much stuff about this episode that just raises a whole bunch of questions, and it's just a very weird episode, and it really just does not make sense at all. So that's really why I just decided to really just put like the entire episode of an old story in this spot, because there were just like so much questions this episode raised that I just simply couldn't put like these like questions separately. So I just decided to put an old story just as a whole in one spot. So yeah. So number 5 is just like the entire episode of an old story. All right. And number 4, uh, did Grady become a werewolf too? So this is, of course, is regarding the ending of the Werewolf of Fever Swamp. Because yeah, in the very end of the episode, like it shows Grady like just outside on the balcony, and as he sees the full moon in the sky, he starts howling at it. So I mean, was that meaning that Grady became a werewolf too? Because yeah, in the episode, like of course as the legend goes, the legend is that like if you're bitten by a werewolf, you become a werewolf too. But in the episode, like when Grady actually like stood off against the werewolf, like the werewolf didn't actually bite him. At least like we didn't see the werewolf bite him. Like the werewolf just like grabbed him. The werewolf didn't actually bite him. So yeah, so I really don't see like how Grady could have actually become a werewolf, since like we never actually did see the werewolf biting him. Like in the book, like it did say like Grady got bitten by the werewolf, so he became werewolf there. But in the episode, on the other hand, like yeah, we didn't actually see the werewolf actually biting him. So what exactly was Grady's howl at the end actually symbolizing? I mean, because I really don't doubt that he became a werewolf too. Like, could it be like something else with like him calling the werewolf, similar to like what the swamp hermit was doing in this episode, as he was howling at the moon trying to call the werewolf? So so it is just something that I really haven't really quite understood what this ending was symbolized, because yeah, because to my knowledge, Grady wasn't bitten by the werewolf. So yeah, so I really don't exactly understand what his howl at the end actually did mean. So yeah, but yeah, who knows what it could really mean. All right. So yeah, number 3 is do all of the stories take place in the same universe? So yeah, this isn't really like regarding like any sort of like a plot point from any sort of episode, but it's just something that I really have like kind of questioned about like just the entire Goosebumps series, whether it is the books or the episodes. I just do all of these stories actually take place in the same universe? Like just like do like just all of these stories, like whether it is like these episodes I mentioned, whether it's Werewolf of Fever Swamp, an old story, the Attack of the Mutant, like and just like all the episodes of the show, just like all the stories that have been made under the Goosebumps name, just are they all set in the same universe? It is something that I have just really questioned, because yeah, as far as I know, like I haven't really like heard any sort of like references or mentions to like any other stories in like a certain story. Like for example, like in like a Werewolf of Fever Swamp, I haven't heard like any sort of like mention or reference of any other Goosebumps story. And yeah, and you just like go down the list of like all the Goosebumps stories. Like if you're like seeing like one story being told, like you really don't like hear any sort of references or mentions of like any other sort of story in the series. So yeah, so it is something that I have kind of questioned. Like since it is all like under the same name, like it is all under the name of Goosebumps. Like is it like is it all set in the same universe? So yeah, so it is just something that I really have like kind of questioned as to whether or not this is true. So yeah, but yeah, it really is just like once again probably like something that isn't like something that a whole bunch of people really do think about. But yeah, but if you do think about it, it really can like be something really big to really think about. So yeah, all right. But anyway, moving on. All right, number 2 is why are the why is the haunted mask powers different in the second haunted mask than they were in the first. So yeah, so this is something that I really have like kind of like always questioned ever since I've seen the Haunted Mask 2, because if you watch like the first Haunted Mask, like when Carly Beth wears the mask really doesn't actually show any sort of powers to it. Like all it really does in the first Haunted Mask is it just attaches to Carly Beth's face. I mean, all we really do see the Haunted Mask do, other than attach to Carly Beth's face in the first one, is like as in that shot where Carly Beth like attempts to grab the mask. You see like the mask has its eyes closed, and when the shopkeeper stops her, the mask opens its eyes. That's pretty much all we see the Haunted Mask do by itself in the first Haunted Mask. On the second one, however, the Haunted Mask actually does have like more powers than just that. Like at least more of its powers are like revealed. It shows how the mask actually is haunted. It has a mind of its own. It can move on its own. It's able to talk. It can control people as it does with the shopkeeper, and all this other stuff. Just how come like none of these powers were actually like shown in the first Haunted Mask? Like we didn't actually see the Haunted Mask do any of this stuff in the first one. All we like saw the Haunted Mask do in the first was pretty much just attached to Carly Beth's face. But in the second one, just now, why is it like all of a sudden like doing all this stuff in the second one when it didn't do anything like that in the first? So it really is just like something that I really do question. I mean, because shouldn't the Haunted Mask just like do exactly if it really does like have all these powers we see it have in the first in the second one, shouldn't it have just like shown all these powers in the first one as well? But yet it doesn't do any of that. I, so it really is just something that I really am like kind of confused about as to why the Haunted Mask really does do all this. So yeah, of course, like the two Haunted Mask episodes are really considered to be like the best episodes of the entire Goosebumps show, and I agree with that. I mean, you may remember I actually did put the both Haunted Mask 1 and 2 as the best episodes of the show when I was counting down the best Goosebumps episodes all those years ago. So even I like them, but yeah, this is just something that I really have questioned as to why the Haunted Mask's powers are different in the second one than they were in the first one. So yeah, I it is something else that I really have like questioned over the years. So yeah, okay. And the number one questionable plot point in Goosebumps episodes for me is how does Slappy always reassemble? So this is of course is in the Night of the Living Dummy series. Yeah. So this is just something I really have just not really understood because pretty much at the end of every Night of the Living Dummy episode, and even like stories, Slappy ends up getting destroyed. And yet, like in like the next Night of the Living Dummy episode, it's like he is like just like all reassembled. So how is he able to do this? Like, how does he like reassemble when he gets destroyed at the end of every story? Yeah, it's something that I have just really don't understand. Granted, like in the Bride of the Living Dummy episode, like it was like explained how Slappy's evil spirit couldn't be destroyed, but yet at the end of that episode, after like his uh, body ends up getting destroyed, he just ends up possessing like another person. So how come he just doesn't do that? How is he like able to like reassemble his dummy body once he ends up getting destroyed and he gets reassembled in the next episode featuring him? It's something I really don't like quite understand. Like, could this be just be something where like his spirit ends up like possessing like a different dummy that actually does still have his like it's still like the same design dummy for him. Like, does he just like end up possessing like a dummy of the same model once he gets destroyed at the end of every episode? And does he just like does his spirit just like transfer over to like a dummy of the same model? Like, yeah, it is just something that I really have just really been like I have asked all the time as to like how Slappy is like able to reassemble after he just his body always gets destroyed at the end of every Night of the Living Dummy episode. I mean, is it something similar to like how Chucky always comes back in the Chucky movies? How just like once he ends up like getting destroyed at the end of each movie, like in the beginning of the next movie, they like just put him back together. So yeah, it is just something that I really just don't quite understand, and there's no explanation given whatsoever as to how Slappy is always able to do this. So yeah, so that is just like probably the plot point in the Goosebumps episode that I have really asked myself the most. So yeah, so it really is just something that I don't quite understand, and they don't explain it. Just yeah, just it really is just something that just really is something that really is very questionable in the Goosebumps series. So yeah, so that is number one. All right, and so yeah, so there is my those are my top 10 questionable plot points in the Goosebumps episode. So yeah, there's a so yeah, so there is like a lot of stuff in the show that really is like very questionable throughout it because yeah, when you do watch these episodes and even like other episodes of the show, you may like there may be something that you really do question, and because it really doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it could just be like done in a different way. So, yeah, so those are my top 10 questionable Goosebumps plot points. So, what are your guys' Goosebumps plot points? I mean, is there anything else that I didn't mention that you guys kind of question if you watch Goosebumps? Like, what is like kind of like something like a questionable plot point of yours for Goosebumps? Like, if you have any other ones, like comment on my channel and tell me some of your questionable plot points. All right. Okay, so that is this video. All right. So now this is I'm going to be telling you guys what I'm going to be doing this year in honor of Halloween. So it is something else like Goosebumps related, like I said. So I figured like I actually do want to like talk about like Goosebumps episodes. So I figured I would be making reviews for like Goosebumps episodes. Now, which episodes am I actually going to talk about? Well, yeah, the episodes that I am going to be talking about out out in this series for Halloween is I'm going to be making reviews for like the Goosebumps episodes that were released on home video in the 90s. So if you actually like did like if you're a 90s kid, like like if you watch Goosebumps, you probably may know what I am actually talking about. But for those of you who don't know, I'll put a little promo down in the description about like the Goosebumps video series that were released throughout the 90s. And it's just to kind of like just tell you guys the episodes I am going to be reviewing. Like some of these episodes I did actually like include in this list. But yeah, if you want like the full lineup, I'll put a little video down in the description of like a promo for like this Goosebumps video series. Like every episode mentioned in that promo are going to be the ones I'm going to be talking about. So these are basically like pretty much all these episodes are the episodes that if you go onto Netflix and look up Goosebumps, these are really the episodes that are like featured in like the specials category. So these are like considered the specials of the Goosebumps series. So yeah, so if you really like want to really like know more about like which ones I'm really am going to be reviewing, like that will like kind of narrow it down for you. These will be like the episodes that are like feature or like in the specials category on Netflix for Goosebumps. So yeah, so I am like pretty much going to be like reviewing all these like episodes in the order of like in which like the promo down there like has them in the lineup, like pretty much like in the order like this promo down there will mention them. Though it is going to be like a little bit out of order because yeah, in like these like episodes I'm going to be talking about, like the two Haunted Mask episodes are included in this, but yeah, rather than like review them in the order which they do are mentioned in the promo down there, since these are like actually like Halloween episodes of the show, I'm going to be saving the two Haunted Mask episodes for last in this lineup. So yeah, I'll be so yeah so the two Haunted Mask episodes, Haunted Mask and Haunted Mask 2, those will be the last two episodes that I do review in this series. So I'll be like reviewing the first Haunted Mask the day before Halloween, and then I'll review Haunted Mask 2 on Halloween. So those are going to be my plans this year for Halloween with like, and yeah, and this is, yeah, you can consider this like my 13 days of Halloween, since Halloween is now 13 days away. All right, but yeah, so those are going to be my plans this year for Halloween. So those are going to be my reviews coming up next. So yeah, so stay tuned for my reviews of like the Goosebumps episodes that were released on home video in the 90s. So, viewers beware, you're in for a scare. All right. So those are my plans this year for Halloween. So yeah. So stay tuned for my reviews of the Goosebumps episodes released on home video in the 90s coming up. All right. So yeah. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.